Thank you everyone again for joining us today. We're Eco El Paso, and this is our 13th annual conference. And this year, due to the pandemic, we're all virtual, so it is a 2-week virtual speaker series. And we're really happy that we were able to get Anita Ledbetter from Build San Antonio Green to join us today. And she will be speaking not only about Build San Antonio Green, but she will also be speaking about their efforts in San Antonio, how we can maybe take some of those ideas here in El Paso. And hopefully we'll be able to continue the conversation after she shows us a quick film. And then on a side note, I just happen to know Anita very well. We work together in San Antonio on a board for Solar San Antonio, and she is the executive director for Build San Antonio Green, which has done some amazing work with sustainability and affecting positively against climate change in San Antonio. And we're friends outside of the work world, but Anita is awesome. She really knows her stuff. She's got a lot of really good ideas to share with us today. But that's my long-winded intro. Thank you, Anita, for joining us today. And I'll pass it off to you and let you do your thing.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. First, I just wanted to say, thank you so much, Shelby, for inviting me to participate in this conference. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to kind of share the San Antonio story with you guys. I've attended this conference before in a couple of years ago, and it was amazing. And I love the city of El Paso and really admire the spirit of the people that I met at that conference. So a lot of great opportunity out in El Paso. We're thinking about you. You're our sister city, now in the COVID pandemic. And so anyway, with that, it's a privilege to present to you this morning. So I have a video that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to be narrating it live. And then afterwards, we'll open it up for questions, and really look forward to catching up with you, Shelby, and talking about everything. So, all right.
Hey, all yours.
All right, let me get this all. All right, here we go. We are Build San Antonio Green. And I'd like to share our story with you today. We were founded back in 2001 as a nonprofit partnership of the city, the county, and CPS Energy. And today our mission is to protect and enhance the quality of life of the people of San Antonio through our work. Community engagement, solar for everyone, and affordable green building. This is the work of our organization. Single family retrofit, single family new construction, multifamily, mixed use, and commercial buildings. We have an above code voluntary program that we have designed to help builders and developers build a certified green building that can be measured. It's performance-based, and we deal in percentages better than code in energy, water, site materials, and the indoor air quality of the home, just to kind of name some of the basic areas. With energy, we're looking at the entire building envelope and all of the equipment that's included. We're looking at all of the water conservation inside of the home. We're looking at the way the site is developed, and obviously the water conserving native landscaping and the percentage of materials that are used in the home, also low VOC or no VOC, and dealing with indoor air quality, which a lot of that is also tied to the HVAC system. We also have unbiased technical expertise to help you go solar on your home or business. We can help connect you with EV charging for your home or business. And we work with builders all throughout San Antonio at every price point. We specialize in rebates for builders and energy savings for customers. And we've been at this a while, but the green building program really started to hit a good pace, I guess, back in about 2009. And we've been every year growing. As of today, we've certified almost 11,000 projects here in San Antonio, representing 24.5 million square feet of certified buildings. That represents 17.7 megawatts of peak demand reduction on our energy grid, 290 million pounds of CO2, 221,000 pounds of NOx have been prevented, which is pretty much like taking about 24,000 cars off the San Antonio roads every year. But that's what we've been doing. And I'm here to talk to you about the future and our vision for what we see coming and where we want to go. I'm going to tell you a story. Many years ago here in San Antonio, we had a green building program, we had designed that. But years ago, about 2009 or so, we really started putting in these smart meters. And then we began to kind of reevaluate our game plan, because we knew the next thing that would be coming would be a smart grid, right? And what a smart grid, meaning the electrical grid, what we mean by that is that it was going to transform from a energy pipeline of the past to a two-way communications platform that we call the smart grid. This is starting to happen with our water grid here in San Antonio. We're starting to test out the meters. Next, we believe that this will start evolving with our transportation grid, and some of that is already happening with TransGuide and our traffic system. Next, we have the layer of the Internet of Things, all the devices everyone is purchasing, and connectivity. But when we bundle these things together, smart electric, the inevitable smart water grid, the inevitable smart transportation grid, the Internet of Things and connectivity, that's what we call smart city. And we think San Antonio can get there by 2030. That's why back in about 2009, we created a program called Smart Green, which is the automated green building. Today, we've been working with Meritage Homes, and we have about 1,000 of these certifications, but a lot of it has been really driven by consumer demand. It's a green home, but with a lot of technology that people want. And it's really what the customer wants. And that's going to continue to evolve and change. It's been my observation that consumer demand and technology development has been outpacing, utility and infrastructure planning. So we designed the automated green building to where we can plug in these programs of the future: demand response solar panels, grid tied EV and storage, demand response irrigation. These are the programs of the future. The smart green home is predictive and reactive. Now, again, we designed it back in 2009. It took us many years to get a builder to do it, but it is starting to happen now. So we went from green to smart green, and then we created the SA Climate Ready plan here in San Antonio. I had the privilege of being co-chair of that plan, which really looked at two pieces: mitigation, how are we going to reduce our contribution to climate change, and adaptation, how are we going to adapt to it? And our goal is net zero carbon by 2050. Now, we've been working in the space of mitigation for a long time in the green building program, right? That's that whole emissions reduction. But when we look at the weather patterns, this is what I was thinking about, what our anticipated weather will be here in San Antonio. Longer periods of drought, it's not rocket science. It's going to get hotter. We're going to have higher temperatures. We're going to have increased flooding. We're going to generally have more hot days and more extreme weather, right? That's adaptation. How are we going to adapt to that? How, and it's kind of like, how do things evolve? When I told you the story about we went from a meter, now I think we're going to start rolling out all of these sensors everywhere. And we're going to have so much data. Right now, CPS, I think when they turned it on, they had more data in the first hour than they had in the history of the company. This is going to happen to all of us. And the question is, what are we going to do with all that data? First, we're going to just have to collect it, right, from all these smart meters. Then we're going to have to manage it. The real trick is how we're going to optimize and utilize it, right? Given all these factors, consumer demand, our changing climate, extreme weather events, data. How can we use all of this to better prepare? How can we use things like predictive analytics to help us to prepare better for climate change? These are some of the big questions that are out here. Questions I think about. How can we use this to optimize emergency management and response? You know, a smart city isn't just about, you know, optimizing our resources. It's really about getting ahead of things and having resource and climate resilience through the technology that is happening anyway. We just have to organize it and get ahead of it. And also, you know, when we have all this data, let's talk about social equity. How can we use data as a tool for social equity? That's a big question for me. You know, people talk about social equity and what that means. For me, I feel like data is a fantastic tool because you can basically just map everything out. And let me give you an example. You know, we're very proud of our history of solar here in San Antonio. I'm going to talk to you about the evolution of solar. In the beginning, you know, we had rebates. When we map out those rebates, that was the first thing that we had. At that time, it was early on, it was the higher income areas of town that were able to participate, right? I'm showing you the city of San Antonio. The next step is that we diversified and went into kind of utility scale solar farms, kind of spread them out, right? My question is, being from San Antonio, is how are we going to fill this solar desert, which was basically all the low income areas of town? How were they going to be able to participate in solar? So then CPS Energy partnered and created a new program called Simply Solar and Solar Host SA, and so the pilot program at that time was looking to host solar systems on people's roofs. Then they created other partnerships to do community solar. Right now, we're in a big one called Big Sun Community Solar. It's another kind of innovative, groundbreaking program that uses parking structures. So my question is, we look at how we've gotten where we are today is through the diversification of solar and having something for everyone. You know, my question is, what's going to happen with the distribution of EVs? We need to take some of these historical lessons and the data, looking at the map, and start applying that to these new programs that we will need to roll out in the future. Again, how can we use smart city technology as a way to optimize our city to prepare for climate change? These are the big questions. Now, again, when we talk about what is the future of our city and how we're evolving, and, you know, again, how our grid will continue to evolve into a smart city, a lot of it comes down to infrastructure and data. But when we start with people and we understand how they live, I think that's really where it begins. And that's why we're evolving again from a green building. Then we went to a smart green building. But I know in my heart that the future of homes and buildings here in San Antonio and other places is a climate ready building. Because again, we have to adapt to the changing weather. We cannot just mitigate our contribution to climate change, we have to adapt. And the climate ready home is our solution here in San Antonio. We're thinking of beyond green building into heat resistant materials, beyond water conservation to water security. The climate ready home is designed to help buffer the impact of like high winds, flooding, loss of communications, backup power. You know, we also have designed in to give people a preparedness plan that is specific to their specific part of town, specific neighborhood, so they know what to do in case of an emergency. So again, now we've really shifted our thinking from not just inside the home or inside the lot, but the effect of the weather on the outside of the home. You know, we can't have the side of the house melting off from the heat, right? Climate ready. It is the future of green buildings.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to stop sharing. So, have I stopped sharing my screen?
Not yet.
Let's see. How do I
Probably.
stop? No. Hold on. Oh wait, here we go. Stop share. All right. Thanks so much.
That was an excellent video, and I'm glad that I knew you back when it all started and sort of how you've evolved. I really like how it's not just about the builders, it's not just about the homeowners. You start looking at, micro neighborhoods, communities, and then the whole city, and everything seems two-way. It's really cool to see how you've evolved it.
Thank you. It's we have a saying back at Build San Antonio Green, and that's teamwork makes the dream work. Shelby, we are old friends, and we share a mentor, Mr. Bill Sinkin. And one thing that I think we all can get behind is that there's a lot of smart people in the world, right? But it's good people that change things for the better. And I think that again, sometimes when we're talking about the things like technology or solar panels or EV and all these things, I think what I try to do is I begin with people and how people live and what people want and what people need, and when we design around that, and what kind of like when you kind of look out and kind of see what's coming in the future, I mean that and try to kind of re-engineer things more equitably and for the benefit and the quality of life of people. That is why we are where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's interesting. Almost all the concepts that you proposed, you could pretty much copy that to any city. You just adapt it to whatever the local needs are, right? Like for us,
Sure.
desert, water, like you said, heat, literally melting off buildings. I mean, I've got trees out here that they survive, but the tips of all the leaves are burning in the summer, right? And
Absolutely.
the temperatures are getting higher. I think this year in El Paso, I think we're breaking records. The amount of 100-degree days in a single year continues to skyrocket. And a local journalist here sort of showed what it was like, 100 years ago and what it is today. And it's not some just like little blip. It's a consistent, gradual increase.
Absolutely.
That's not going to change unless we,
Yeah.
try to do what we can to change it, right?
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that I'm so passionate about, and I think that there's a lot packed in here, but again, let's just talk about climate change. In the beginning, it was all again, think about how our organization was founded to reduce emissions. Well, what do you think that means? It's like, well, we called it reducing emissions, but the whole story is that that's really a lot of the work was focused on mitigation, reducing electrical demand, reducing fossil fuel, reducing, mitigating, right? But what I've come to understand in the last several years really is that, that focus on adaptation, that right there is like something that cannot be left behind. And it's something that I feel has been a major focus for me, because again, it goes back to the way that somebody lives and the quality of life of everyone, and kind of, here in San Antonio, and I know El Paso, we're sister cities, but here in San Antonio, we have, a lot of historic inequity. And listen, a lot of that, again, just comes down to infrastructure, streets and, pipes and all of those things. And so, someone might ask, well, what does that have to do with climate change? A lot, when you're in the middle of it, when you're suffering from it. And so, again, using information and using data and using mapping and all of those things are tools to help us kind of re-engineer not only our infrastructure and our utility structures and our buildings and stuff, but really also the way that people live and the way that we help impact their life. I think that for me, again, is the big thing. It's really about people's quality of life.
Yeah, that actually, the same social inequities are really big here in El Paso. I mean, obviously, I'm not from here. I came here 7 years ago as a transplant, but I married into a family that's been here for over 100 years, and it's just really interesting when you drive around the city and you see the social inequity. I saw it in San Antonio when I would drive, when I was selling solar for years, always on the road.
Yes.
and I would drive by the coal plants in San Antonio, and I guess it was southeast part of the city, and I started noticing the properties, the homes, the neighborhoods around there, and it's just,
That's where I grew up, Shelby.
yeah, and they're either people aren't even living there anymore, and they're just like abandoned homes and properties, or they're suffering, right, from the coal industry. And then same thing in El Paso when you're out here. I mean, we have an oil refinery, for God's sakes. I mean, that's something I feel like our city just does not address on its own enough. That it is just a huge eyesore. But
Well,
you see a lot of neighborhoods right next to it,
mhm.
and that really concerns me.
Well, and
Um,
I'll tell you, very quickly on that note, and back to, it really opens up a big thing here. So you brought up the southeast side of San Antonio and those neighborhoods. That's where I grew up, and this is why I've dedicated my life to this work, is because of our lack of access to just like basic needs. So, and I know this is something seemingly, I imagine El Paso shares this. I grew up in like a food desert. What does that mean? That means that we didn't really have a grocery store, and we didn't have fresh produce, and people
Dollar
just
General.
ate fast food or walked to the gas station and literally bought food there, because we didn't have transportation. I grew up, and I lived for a great part of time in severe poverty in my teenage years. I went months with no power, months with no water. I went years without refrigeration or like a stove. And so when you grow up that way, you begin to again really realize, focus on the people in that neighborhood and how they're living and their access to things. And that goes, and that's across the board. So again, as we develop new things, EV, solar, EV, the whole thing. I just, something I'm focused on is that we leave no one behind, and we think about people's ability to participate in those things. It's one thing for someone, I'll give you the food example, for someone to say, oh, well, why don't they just eat organic, or why don't they just, go get some, produce? It's like, well, when there literally isn't any in your neighborhood, you don't have that transportation. So again, those interconnected systems, like what you're saying, and the impact that has on, again, people's quality of life. So yeah, I know that we both share, our cities both share this, issue, these
Absolutely.
issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think for here, it's, that's what our nonprofit wants to focus on is underserved communities. So I created a program called Million Trees El Paso, and it's not to go put fancy fruit trees in rich neighborhoods. It's to
Yeah,
put, native drought tolerant trees, starting with the most underserved communities.
that's
And yes,
right.
we want to hit every neighborhood, right? Rich, poor, in between, doesn't matter. But we feel like another thing we want to do is, give solar energy systems to nonprofits who own their buildings. We want to be able to come into a nonprofit and say, hey, your application won. Here's a free system for the next 25 plus years,
Yeah.
right? And so I think we have that same mindset of giving back to our community, especially those that are underserved. But what I really like, to really tie back to your presentation, I just love the idea of green building and being climate ready. But that's one thing I think that you could probably give me your explanation, I think, of how you talk to builders in San Antonio that we could maybe mimic here, is that I get a lot of pushback from builders, and I've met with the heads of the builders associations and real estate associations. And they, as you've heard, when you talk about upgrading, let's just say the lighting to LED, and it's going to cost them $15 more a house out of this 500
Yeah.
or 100 home community, whatever it is. And they lose their mind for every $5 it goes up. Oh, they're not going to be able to get their loan now. And I'm starting to think, well, over 30 years, that's, pennies, right? But I
Yeah.
get a lot of pushback. And especially when I start now talking about maybe an extra 5,000 in better windows or insulation or spray foam versus Pink
Hmm.
Panther stuff, right? Or spray in insulation. Or when I talk about, God forbid, we put in a solar system in a house,
Hmm.
they really lose their mind at every $5,000 and $10,000 increment. And I get it, right? They need to sell homes. They're trying to make them affordable. But I think one thing that they don't get here quite yet, I think some do, and some do this, and I don't think that every consumer quite gets, is there's a cost of a home and there's the total cost of ownership, right? And yeah, you could buy that house for $50,000 more and your $500 electric bill and your air quality is horrible. And I get a lot of pushback here. And what did you like? What clicked between you and your message and the builders in San Antonio when they finally realized that these houses could sell quickly and at a premium? Because I'm not worried about them selling them. I know they can sell, but how did you get them to understand that?
Well, part of it is, a lot of hard work and some luck. And I stopped talking about it and started showing them the money. And I will say that, I grew up in construction. It's my first, it was, when I was like 18, I don't know if I actually used to do like apprentice carpentry, and
Oh, no.
I was just straight up on. Then I realized I wanted to go back to college because it was hot out there, honey. So the point being is, I will say this, that and I don't know the price point, but I've been at this job. It'll be 17 years in January, and there's a lot of truth to, yes, many people get priced out at those levels. And so what we do is we avoid that level. Now, not with the exclusion of solar. I'm not talking about solar. So I'm talking about like the base things. What we did, our solution to that is, in the beginning, when there was the first version of the green building program, actually right before I came, it was like the greenest home you could have. And then they're like, two people did it, and like, because it was like a $10,000 premium. And so that's like basically, I mean, here in San Antonio, we have a low quality of or no, not low quality, a low cost of living, except the housing is keep going up. This is a massive problem for the people of San Antonio, is just even be able to afford a home, So again, what we did is we tried to take the designer label off of green building. So back to no expensive fees to certify things. That was number one. That's because we're a nonprofit, and we were lucky for that. Number two is that what we designed is we, basically tiered the program, but all of them, and we made it performance based. So for example, there are some things that are prescriptive, like you have to do this no matter what. And other things are a performance target, because we don't care how you get there. You just need to get there. And that's how we can do $1 million home and low income affordable homes in the same criteria. Why? Because getting 15% better than the energy code is actually getting harder as the code keeps getting better, right? And our entry level is designed to be 15% better than whatever the code is. Now, so our solution was, we bundled and we tried to design a program where actually, when you look at the whole system together, you can shave off money in other places through lumber and better techniques and so on. Basically, we tried to design a program where there's almost no premium, the base green building home, or it's like under $1,000. And then second, because of the scale of things as well, a lot of the other thing we did here is that we focused on production builders. So I could have, a handful of high-end custom net zero energy. And, because I had the first net zero energy home in our program, thanks to you, Shelby. Thank you, because we worked together on that.
Yeah.
But the point is, I realized then, like, hey man, like, who else can really, over time as things become more affordable, right? So, but my dream is for all the people of San Antonio, right? For the average person, or the person, the least of us, to have access to this. So what I did was think about production builders and how we were going to build an entry level green home, and then as a package, right, across their enterprise. So we specialize in that, and then they can have upgraded options. So for example, you can go to Meritage or KB Homes here, or Lennar, or some of the other builders, Sitterly, or so on. And they're all going to have those base things. But then some of them are going to be like, okay, well, you can afford an EV charger or an upgrade, even better, this, that, and the other. So you can like jump up levels and so on. So you can build solar ready, you can be EV ready, you can add that stuff on later. That is a really good thing for a builder too, because they realize that just means wiring. Like, oh, that's like that you just need some conduit. They're like, oh, okay, cool. It's like putting in a dryer. They're like, I can do some of this, but what we do is we have to work with builders up front in the plan stage, and we don't come at them with one thing. We come at them with the whole program. But here's the real secret sauce. money. And we are very lucky to have a rebate here where builders, because of our STEP program, which is a whole, story that we put together, a semi-permanent funding mechanism that we've been working off of about the past decade, to give builders a small incentive, comparatively, for them to participate in the program. So again, low fee for certifying it, right? I want you to put the money in the equipment, not pay the designer label. Number two, be performance driven, because for us, it's like that is what green building means, is the optimized. It's like we look at a home like an engine. We want it to be optimal. And so that right there, has guaranteed savings. So for example, here's another thing that we're experiencing here in San Antonio. You pull up over time, builders begin to realize this. You pull up to, you think about who's buying a home, just very quickly. It's like usually families, right? So when and you have a young family, but when you're buying your home and, maybe there's two neighborhoods, same grocery store, same school, same proximity to work, same stuff, same amenities in the neighborhood, same kind of general stuff. Builders, pretty much are kind of building similar type things, generally near each other for competition. But one has a sign that says move in here and your bills are 50% less on an entry level. Those homes sell faster because the nature of where we live, right? It's the same as El Paso, because it's hot, because the drought, because of water. When you start, for us, green building again means a performance-based home. And when it's performance-based and optimized in that way, it has those guaranteed results. So again, a package, we had a great rebate. However, we've also designed the entry level where it almost costs no premium.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
if
awesome.
that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense.
And then you scale it over time. So just in conclusion, Shelby, so the end result is this: a decade later, we have some super like off-grid net zero. We have them, but the big bulk of it, it's again, instead of going over that just green building is only 100% off-grid, instead of having that, by using this other method, this is how we've amassed over about 24.5 million square feet of buildings, the majority of which have been single family homes. This year is our biggest year ever. We have already completed over 2,000 certifications this year, and we have 4,700 homes under construction right now. So when you look at the cumulative effect of that and the affordability, and then it begins to drive the price of those windows and other stuff, because it's no longer a special thing, it's in stock, but the other builders are using it. There's a lot of those things that have come into play.
Yeah, and as other builders add on and the industry gets bigger, they're almost helping each other by driving down the price.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's really
And it becomes more accessible to people.
Yeah.
And then people can upgrade.
Yeah, because I what I need to get through to the builders here is, I guess, they really just need that designer label walkthrough without all the fancy price behind it, kind of like you're doing, right? You're sort of giving them the secret sauce. These are the materials, right?
Yeah.
These are the procedures and processes and changes. Would you say the way in which they construct the homes now, from then to now, is it much more, is it drastically different, or it's just a different piece of wood, a different product that they're putting in, a spray foam insulation versus the paint? It's kind of a process, right? But
I would say it's a mixture, but a lot of it is process. The other thing too, though, the major game changer, and the thing I just realized I probably should have said, back to when I say things are performance based, we really believe in building science. So again, we use the HERS index, which, I know you're familiar with. And so when you have that guaranteed performance, or, when you have something that's measured and, and so on, and modeled ahead of time, all of those things are huge contributors as well, because, again, when we're doing like old school, like a manual J calculation on an HVAC system, it's like, I'm going to save you money because we're going to size that thing correctly, And
Yep.
so I think that really the big advancements have been around energy, building envelope stuff and equipment. I think the next revolution that's coming also more immediately will be in devices, you know, the Internet of
Yeah.
Things and water technology and, you know, and so on and so forth
Sensors. Yeah, I know that's coming this way.
on everything. But, you
Yeah.
know, the good thing about sensors on everything is that the layer of transparency it brings, because then things are no longer subjective. Like, well, I think this, or, oh, you know, I feel that. Then it's like, well, no, here's all the data and it's on a map and there it is. And that I think can be helpful.
Yeah, I think if I can get that message across to builders here and get them to do, I don't know, out of the next 100 homes, give me 10 at, like you said, maybe it's the entry level 15% over code, but I feel like it's like they got to dip their toe in the water to see it. Because one thing I noticed when we sold solar to Lennar homes, they always told us, yes, we always have open inventory of unsold homes. We never have inventory of a solar home. Every solar
Yeah.
home sold for them.
Because yeah.
In Houston, we would help them with 300 homes. They do 100 with solar. They'd all be sold, and only the non-solar homes. And then customers, like you said, had the option to add it because they were solar ready. And so, if anyone's
Yeah.
listening that is a builder or in
Yeah.
the industry, you know, solar ready and electric vehicle ready, all that means is the proper size conduit pipe and the proper size wire, maybe not even in there,
Yeah.
but it's already pre-piped. So we're talking like dollars worth of
Yeah.
piping. So later, I don't have to run a big pipe all the way up and across
Yeah.
your roof or go into your attic and, you know, modify your home. I can just pull a string with the wire through
Yeah.
it. It's all through your house, and it maybe costs the builder $50, but you can now be truly solar and EV ready and have
Yeah.
cool aesthetics of not
Yeah.
having to have the silver piping all over your house. And that's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you know, it's like the other thing I think that helps is that when we have and I tend to have this attitude generally about everything, and that is nothing is a one size fits all, nothing. So not in the community wide deployment of solar strategy, not in the deployment of EVs, not in, you know, a lot of different things. But what I was going to say is that what we've also seen is, you know, some builders will, you know, kind of like these homes are so energy efficient that you actually need less solar.
Yep.
And, you know, again, because here's something that's, you know, to get down in the weeds. Actually, you and I went through this process together, just to kind of share a story and what I mean about like solar into homes. So, for example, you know, from our end, working and we do deep retrofits as well. But when you're working with a new construction build, right, and putting solar on that, well, when it's a green building and it's so energy efficient, you actually can need less solar,
Yeah.
right? Which is, and it's kind of like the better your building envelope, the less the smaller the AC size equipment that you need, right? So it's interesting, but that's very different than how solar started out. Solar started out as a retrofit thing, and solar companies would design it towards what your consumption is. So they would say, hey, these are all your energy bills that you've been in, and we're going to size that system based on those on the bills. Well, now we can model, you know, in a new home. That's a very different
Yep.
strategy, doing those two things. And so again, I think all of it is evolving, and uh, yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting. The other thing real quick that I would mention is that we also have recognized that different builders build different ways. You know,
Yep.
you mentioned Lennar, and we work with Lennar here in San Antonio. You know, some builders, they'll like build and then sell them, right? But do you have like, but KB Homes, for example, is a builder that like they sell and then they build that home.
Right.
Like, and so sometimes I'll look at them a little bit more for like, as an indicator about how strong the market is, just myself. So it's, again, it's really interesting to think about the different ways that people are the different ways, I'm sorry, that builders build, because that strategy, who their market is, how they sell, it's all, again, it's not a one size fit all. So talking to these builders, different things motivate different builders depending on their price point, their customer, their
Yeah.
want, you know, all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we got to crack the nut here in El Paso and get a few to actually do some really detailed data-driven projects where the
Yeah,
Canvas before and after and the HERS ratings and the blower-to-door testing and all that. I think that
yeah,
that's a really, really big and missed opportunity out here that's really on a small scale. And I do like what you said about, basically I say reduce, then produce. And my
yeah.
geothermal friend Ryan,
I love that. Yeah,
yeah, my geothermal friend always tells me this. No, don't just go slap up $200 a month worth of energy bill solar on a roof. Go in there and get their bill from 200 down to 80 a month. Then
yep,
you need, instead of a $20,000 system, maybe you need an $8,000 system for solar.
yeah.
And,
Uh,
and but that $12,000 savings, maybe you didn't have to spend 12 to get there. Maybe you only spent five
yeah,
more to get there. And so I think that people don't always realize that it's like buying a gas guzzler vehicle that you got to spend more on every month. It's like when I moved into my house, I had to retrofit it. It's all electric because I refused to buy anything that had gas in it. And because of that, my bills were astronomical. And I think in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the winter, it'd be like $500. And had I put on $500 worth of solar, I couldn't afford it, and I probably couldn't fit it. But what I did is immediately did windows.
yep,
I cut my bill in half. I had
yep.
27 windows replaced, and literally half my bill. It would have cost so much more for that amount of solar to be put on.
Yeah.
And
So
so
yeah, we all.
it's like a dual process. Maybe I add 5 panels this year, but then I do better lighting, better, everything, appliances, you name it, right? So it's
Yeah.
sort of, I think people, what they think of is they think, oh, it's so expensive. Well, have you done all your light bulbs? Well, let's start there. You can go to Home Depot and do that, right? Let's start one step at a time. And I think that we have to get the individual consumer to think that way, and we really have to connect them to the builder. Because I think what you've done in that connection in San Antonio, would you say it was like a pilot? You just convinced some people to do the pilot and they trusted you? What
In
sort of,
the first version, or
yeah,
like
maybe like a KB home. They're like, okay, we'll try
it
it.
was Imagine Homes, and he was the first one, and I know exactly what it was because it was like back in like 2007, 8, somewhere in there. It's somewhere back in there, and I remember my technical director, Lena Luque. I remember the day she came in my office. She was like, "Anita, we have our 100th certification." And earlier this year we passed 10,000, and it's just it's unbelievable. But yeah, back in the early days, there was a visionary guy, super smart building science, kind of grew up in the construction, was a caring and good person. This is the magic factor. Okay. And he was in the right place at the right time, owned a company, and he was like, I'm going to build the best home in the world, that I can't, for everyone, that's accessible to people. And his name is John Friesenhahn, and he was Imagine Homes. And he was just a really great guy. He was on our advisory committee when we first started trying to kind of regain this.
Okay.
So when I was hired, when I came in, kind of help kind of re-engineer the program at that time. And so when we did that, John was the first person to sign up to do it. And then over the years, it just, has grown into where we are today. So we're very, very blessed, to serve the people here in our community through this work.
Yeah. And so today, you said 10,000, that's an insane amount of growth. What would you say
Crazy.
now that's keeping them? Is it the speed in which they sell the home? Is it a slight premium in which they sell it? What's making them
I,
sticking with it?
I think because we work across such a diverse group of builders at so many different price points, they all do it for different reasons. So I'm just going to kind of go through this very quickly. So let's talk, because we've been just talking about single family new construction. So let me just start there. Single family new construction, you have a varying degree of builders, a varying degree of price point. Most of them, I would say, do it because the house does sell and because that's what people want here, and also because we do have a rebate that helps to cover that cost of it. In fact, that rebate pretty much, what we've been told, it covers the upgrades that they have to do and our fee, plus they make money. And that rebate is, like $1,000 back to keep, re-engineering the program to be more performance-based, and that was able to get the job done with reducing costs, if I'm oversimplifying.
Oh,
The
no,
second thing, and again, those builders are going to have a different reason. They're like, well, hey, I'm building in a neighborhood surrounded by all these other builders. This is the thing that stands out, or whatever. It's like, it's kind of different for each one, depending on the price point. Now, then we have something like the San Antonio Housing Authority that does all their multifamily through us. They're doing it because of people, because they're truly wanting to serve their residents and extend that opportunity to participate in this so-called clean energy economy, or to receive the benefit, or be able to live in a home that is clean and green, and has better air quality and all of those things. That's a different reason. Then I see a question here. It's kind of a segue into this. Then we have leadership. We have a commercial program. I'm really excited. I have two commercial buildings that are just about to finish here in the next couple of months. The first one is, and they're doing it, again, for a different reason. The first one is CPS Energy, a new headquarters. We're very excited. It's a few blocks from our office, Shelby.
Oh,
we
nice.
could see it from, we're very excited. It's the old AT&T builder. Right there. You know what I'm talking about. So they're doing it. Why? Because they're CPS Energy, the largest, municipally, vertically integrated owned utility in the nation, right? So they're doing that because of that leadership aspect, right? The second that I'm really excited about is the Credit Human headquarters. So about our Pearl development here. Next time you come to San Antonio, when the pandemic is, over one day, we're going to hang out, Shelby, and catch, we have all kinds of tours, like invite me to El Paso, come hang out in San Antonio. Anyway, the Credit Human building, they're at the Pearl, kind of the gateway to downtown, right there, right? In a very historic place in San Antonio. They're doing it because, it's kind of the same reason that CPS Energy, some of it is like that leadership aspect. And also, it's going to be a place of connectivity. And, again, the dream is to bring these things to the people of San Antonio, not just like some people. Right. Yeah. And I think that is a real leadership tone that we have here. Across the city, across our county, across CPS Energy, across community leaders like Credit Human. And, that desire, again, really to improve the quality of life for people, or lead by example, to create a place changing opportunity, like what Credit Human, again, at Pearl is going to do. That's all motivated by, or isn't it really, it happens because people want to do the right thing, or they're trying to improve, again, the people's lives. And so, again, why do people do it? Why does it happen? I think it's kind of all of those things in a nutshell.
And so that rebate program, is that through the city?
CPS Energy.
CPS Energy, so utility.
Yes.
So it's really just a single source that you're dealing with for that specific rebate aspect of the job.
That one. But what we did is we designed, we have a municipally owned electrical utility and a municipally owned water utility. So we tend to have a lot of rebates, a lot of community service, a lot of, that's also, a big reason why we have the results that I think our utilities have, is because their shareholders are the people of San Antonio. And so, they're, that, again, that's like a whole conversation right there. Yeah. But
that's a case for moving towards a municipality, whereas we're a monopolistic utility who exports the profits to JP Morgan in New York City. So it's a different mindset. I think, like what you said, it's for the people, by the people, made to city council, back to the people again.
Absolutely.
That circular economy and keeping it there is really
well. And again, and are there a lot of smart people out here in the world? Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. But it's the good people, right? Or starting out with that spirit of service. It's something I like to call actually the spirit of San Antonio. It's like I was only when I was older that I realized how lucky I was to grow up here. El Paso shares this. You know what I think is beautiful about El Paso, real quick, and I've been there a couple of times, but I really got to be there when I came to this conference, and I got to hang out with you, Shelby. And you know what I thought was so beautiful? Yes, the mountains, and but what's beautiful about El Paso is the same thing that's beautiful about San Antonio. And that's the people that live there. And so again, that motivation to like truly help people or change people's lives or their quality of life, all those things, that is a huge driver that makes all things possible.
Yeah. And I'm hoping we can partner with our utilities more. So, regardless of ownership or municipality, I think that they've got a huge role they could play. Plus, I also think there's a huge opportunity for them to really sort of clean up their brand too here in the town.
And I would say this, it's a logical inevitability. I know you're taping it. I did not say that correctly, but my point is, it's just going to happen anyway. I mean, when you look at, sometimes when we wonder, like, where are we going? We have to also kind of look at like where we've been, right? And then kind of also look at the trajectory of things. What is the momentum of things? And you know what, again, so, and I believe every utility across the nation will have to continue to transition because the world is transitioning. And what I mean by that also comes down to consumer demand. And I think one of the, there's a sweet spot in between what I call social engineering systems and things to improve the quality of life of people, and also connecting with what people want, with consumer demand. I mean, all of these things, there was no community plan for this. You see what I'm saying? And that's, and we're on talking about a smartphone, but you know what? All the stuff, it just keeps coming faster and faster. All those pieces of technology, all of the Internet of Things, all consumer demand shapes things. You've been around builders long enough. You remember when, granite was like way back in the day, it was like a big thing. That was not cost effective. But you know why? Because people were like, I want it. They were like, okay, good. Boom. There you go. You got it. So sometimes something comes along, consumer demand will kind of like leapfrog economics in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of factors here. Again, what is the commonality here? People and the way that they live.
No, that's, as we get towards the end here, that's a really good tie back. And I think one thing that I've always felt, but I like that there's language behind it now, because I couldn't always put my finger on it, is that, environmental justice is social justice. They're almost always hand in hand. I rarely ever see the two separated. And I see those that are living next to power plants and refineries are taking it the worst. Here in El Paso, we have, recycling plants that catch on fire near residential communities. They're moving a school bus depot to a underserved community, put hundreds of buses idling in the morning against that community. And then we've got the border in which these 18-wheelers back up for miles, idling all day, trying to get across, just polluting these neighborhoods. And so, what I've always thought is, you have the early adopters, and you typically have a lot of wealthy people early adopt anything. But I think what that's helped and where it's moved more towards is, like you've said, more equitable environmental social justice across the board.
Yeah.
It's for the wealthy, it's not for the poor. It really should be a human right for everybody to have clean air, clean water, clean food, clean to live. Right.
Absolutely. Yes. And these are, a basic human right, and I think you said that perfectly. I mean, that's exactly what it is, Shelby. And, I really believe that, people, do come together, they can come together. I wanted to kind of end with this, or throw this out here. It's kind of like the city of El Paso. Here's what I would say, when you look at your future, it's one thing to come in and say, here's a list of things that I want to do. This is the list of things that we need to do. And you can start with that, right? And we can talk about all those things and, and do that. Right. And that, I think, is the traditional way of things have been done. But that's why the world is the way it is. The other way, and this is kind of the way that I try to, operate at Build San Antonio Green, is I don't start with any of the list of nothing. I just start with one thing, and that is my mission is one, to improve the quality of life of people through my work. And when you start with that as everything else is a logical deduction of it. See, there's an old saying, and it's like, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. And so, I mean, you really, it becomes very clear. Does that make sense? And so once you have that idea in your mind, I think you kind of basically see things in through that light. And that is, I think, what's going to lead us into the future.
Absolutely. Very well said. Well, we've taken a lot of your time, but we do have a few people
So
on,
much fun.
and we can always, take emails and get questions after this.
Yeah, please.
But I figured while we have a few people on, if you do have any questions live, sort of have your moment now with an expert, with Anita here. Just wanted to give the floor to the crowd if anyone does want to unmute their mic and ask any questions. And if not, that's okay. You can always email.
Yeah, please feel free to learn more about us at buildsagreen.org. You can also learn about our program, bringsolarhome.com. Bring Solar Home is a free online decision tool for the people of San Antonio to help them go solar on their home or business. We provide unbiased technical expertise to help them make that decision, and we provide that at no cost to the people of San Antonio. It's a free service that's paid for by, green building, basically. So please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Anita Ledbetter, executive director. My email's on our website, and I'm here to help out in any way I can. And, again, very grateful to be here and excited. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I'm happy I was part of that Bring Solar Home campaign. So
Me
I'm
too.
happy
That's
that
right.
you guys took on the efforts of Solar San Antonio into your nonprofit. And with that, please visit their website. They are a nonprofit. If you ever want to donate to Build San Antonio Green, Eco El Paso, learn more, join their events. They also have events throughout the year if you're in the San Antonio region and watching this video. But we will definitely take a lot of your ideas and expertise and probably be calling you again for more advice.
I would love to come visit El Paso, Shelby. When
Thank
it's
you.
safe, I'm coming. So.
Well, we appreciate you and everything your team is doing, and we will definitely catch up again soon.
You know what? I love the city of El Paso, and we're all thinking about you. You're all in our thoughts and prayers right now in the pandemic, and love you guys.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.